morning, it would help if I actually turned the button, push the button. Step one. That's much better, isn't it? We turn to Paul's letter to the Romans. As we say with a lot of letters, it's teaching the church how to be the church, right? It's also teaching these new Christians this new way of being, and Lent is kind of like that for us. It's a new way of being, even though we know what we're doing, but it's our way to repurpose ourselves. So it's good for us to listen to. In a world that we live in, where sometimes we question where things are going and why, these words matter to us. They matter now. So as we turn to Romans 8, we're going to read 18 through 27, I think, or 18 through 21. Let us turn to God in prayer. God, this is your time. We're here to worship you. We do that fully by meditating on your word, by preaching it, letting that enter our hearts. So we ask that our heart be cleared wide open. Help us to briefly forget about that which we've brought in here, our past, our plan for the future, and just center ourselves here now on the word. In Jesus' name I pray. Paul writes, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The creation waits in eager anticipation for the sons of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who has subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the glorious freedom of the children of God. I am going to keep on reading. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, we groan inwardly as we eagerly wait for our adoption as sons and daughters, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what he already has? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Katie touched on it exactly, I think, about how tricky time can be. Parenting time, right? How it sometimes crawls, but then you look at something that happened 8 years ago and you think, how can that even be possible? That can't be right. I'm gonna give you a couple examples of some huge things to conceptualize here when it comes to time, kind of to help prove how we struggle with this. Because would you believe that Cleopatra, we've all heard of Cleopatra, right? We have our vision of Cleopatra. Would you believe that Cleopatra lived in the history of time closer to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the creation of the Great Pyramids, where she lived by? Here's a trippier one for me. If you like dinosaurs, we were talking about dinosaurs. Connor brought up dinosaurs. And we talk about the Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? We've seen Jurassic Park. The Tyrannosaurus Rex lived closer to the existence of you and I sitting here than the Tyrannosaurus Rex lived to the Stegosaurus. The Stegosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus Rex were about 100 million years apart in time, and the Tyrannosaurus and us are 65 million years apart in time. But in our minds, they're right next to each other. A little more relevant now than dinosaurs. I ask myself, how much longer will 1970 feel like it was 30 years ago? Right? Does anybody else have that issue? Or how much longer will the year 2000 feel like it was, what, 10 years ago or something like that, right? This is 10 years ago. Folks, 2000 was 18, almost 20 years ago, the year 2000. And you do the math on 1970, and that was almost 50, right? Years, not 30. But why does it seem like I can't capture that in my mind? How can an hour fly by when we're doing something we really enjoy and is a lot of fun, but an hour crawl by when it's something that we're not? Does it really tick at the same rate? Can't. We are creatures of time, and I'm here to say, brothers and sisters, I admit that I actually have a real problem with it. In this week's chapter, Tish Harrison-Warren, she recalls, it's called Sitting in Traffic, one of those moments in time that none of us like, right? Wasted time. But she recalls one of her favorite literary scenes that she took from the book Gulliver's Travels. The Lilliputians, who Gulliver met on his travels, they believe, because he kept checking his clock, that must be a god that he must worship, because he keeps looking at it. Now, this was clever commentary by Jonathan Swift, who wrote Gulliver's Travels about an era that he lived in, that he felt was in a hurry, that had a struggle with time and efficiency. Gulliver's Travels was written in 1726. He was making a commentary on time. What would our gods be today if we showed up in some other place, the thing that we're just looking at, checking all the time? It would still be the clock, for many, be included. It is something I think that really and truly does make us American. And don't get me wrong, I am proud of that, and we are too, right? I am raised by incredibly timely people. I have to tell you this. My dad, corporate manufacturing guy, back when he was working, it drove him crazy when he went to either France or Mexico to do work, and when something was supposed to start at a time and it never did, he said, how do these people live like this? It's supposed to be now. He could never get it. My grandma, who kind of half-raised us, we went to every doctor's appointment at least 45 minutes early. You know, because they might see you. That's not how that works, really. But if it works once, then you're kind of addicted to it, right? It might happen again. I get an acute reaction when I walk into some place and it's just on time. It's just starting. It's like everybody's staring at me, waiting for me. It just happened on Tuesday night for our small group. I was running behind an appointment at a house. I came up here about 5:59. It was supposed to start 6. These wonderful people are just looking at me. I want to be the one who's looking at them when they walk in the room, right? That's how I am at time. And just yesterday, fodder for today's sermon. It's amazing how this happens. So it was my last day of being a solo dad. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Suzanne was out of town. Here it was Saturday. This was the last day on my own. And we had tickets, or so I thought, to a little performance at 11 a.m. at the Rose Theater. So it's dad and daughter's date at 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, we don't get out in the house near enough time on a normal day, okay? And here we have that ice, right? It's this annoying thing that happened. So we show up, and we're about 7 minutes after it was supposed to start. I'm frantic. I go to the will call where I think my tickets are going to be waiting for me. And they're not. There was a confusion about when we signed up. And so she goes, well, let me look here. She's trying to help me out. Meanwhile, time is ticking. We're missing whatever it is we're supposed to be going in there. So I'm on the counter like this now, right? And she goes, well, we have you for this other one and this other one, but this one you'll have to purchase some tickets. And so I get my card out and I start tapping it on here. I go, okay. She goes, no, I just want you to know that it has already started and it's only 35 minutes long. And I said, your pastor. I said, I know, but we're here, so we're going to go. Here, take the card. So we get up there, it's going, and it is just perfectly fine that we come in a little bit late. And I'm sitting there, and I cannot stop thinking about how rude I just was to this nice person trying to help him. All because time just entered in. So what do? We go down to the lobby when it's all done, and I stand and I wait. She's on the phone. And I wait. Grace is like, what are we doing, Dad? So wait. And I went up and I said, I have to apologize. That was out of my character. I was rushed. I'm sorry. Fodder for service. So what of time? As it was fitting a week ago was the first Sunday of Lent. We spent that talking about our work in the world, what we are called to go out and do, and the reality that we really are like Martha, worried and distracted by so many things. But we go out there and we're marked as with ashes on our forehead to this mission field called the workplace, wherever it is that we go. So today, I think relatedly to it is fitting to talk about time, holy time, God's time. Because I think, thanks be to God, that the church operates on its own sort of time, its own calendar, its own clock. And this time we're in, this time of Lent, is one of them. It is seasonal, it is intentional, it is different than other times. Lent is a season to consider so much, and it's before Easter. It's a season to rededicate, to reanalyze, to recommit who we are in Christ. Lent is just one of our seasons. We march through our own calendar. We begin in Advent. That's when our year begins. And then we have Christmas, and then Epiphany. Those three things together tell the story of God's people longing for a Messiah, just like we still are. Christ's birth, and then slowly his revelation as Christ the King to all the world. So then Christ the King Sunday happens right before Lent begins. That's when we proclaim that he is the King. That leads us now into Lent, to Easter, then to Pentecost. Those three tell the story of Christ's temptation, about life in a fallen world that we live, about suffering, the reality of death, the reality of resurrection, ascension, and then the coming of the Holy Spirit, the birth of the church, this thing that we are a part of. We tell the story together, and all the while we, as we are Christians, as we tell the stories, we wait. We wait alongside creation even for the fulfillment of what is to come. And sometimes we even groan, as it says in Romans, as we wait. We wait in frustration. We wait in frustration because when it seems like God is not acting in the world or not there, how can it be? Where are we? Are we lost in time? But then we are reminded by the words of Romans that these sufferings, they are not worth comparing with the glory that is about to be revealed to us. I think we want to wait in anxiety and stress. It has become so natural for us. It's just like we do with the clock. But we have to wait not in that, but in hope. Hope in the unseen. Hope for what is yet to come. Hope is faith in action. The church is different, and I'm thankful for that. The church claims that God, not advertising for the next big sale, not national holidays, not the end of the school year, not the next election season or the news cycle. None of that is what manages our time here. Because God owns all that we consider and call time. We as a church are called to abide in it. We are welcomed by God to be a part of it on a cosmic scale. Harrison Warren writes this profound quote. The reality is that time is, like I told the children, a stream. We're swept into it. Time is a gift from God, a means of worship. I, she writes, need the church to remind me of reality. Time is not a commodity I control, manage, or consume. The practice of liturgical time teaches me day by day that time is not mine. It does not revolve around me. Time revolves around God. What he has done, what he is doing, what he will do. Thankfulness for what he has done, the past. Mindfulness right now, what he is doing. Hope in what he will do. We must, as Christians, as believers of God, make the claim that time is perfected in God. And then in this stream, we are swept into it. Welcome to join in. As Psalm 8 says, we ask, what are mortals? Who are we that you are mindful of us, that you care for us in the scope of the cosmos? But God does. And we are in this. We are present. We exist here and now in this moment by moment, breath by breath. We are in God's stream of life and time flowing on. When you ask me what is the church's call in society, in the world, what do we have to give people in here in 2018? One of the answers I would give is we get to give a different concept of time. Time that is slower, time that is more intentional, time that is God's. In a world where there is a very real presence of idolatry to time, a world that Gulliver would have never imagined now in 2018, I believe that the church's voice must proclaim and then live out, as if it really believes it, that time is God's and time is holy. That every moment, everyone has meaning, and the future worry is just simply not being very faithful to God. Planning is good. I'm not saying don't plan, because planning is a sign of hope. Worrying is not. And you worriers, I'm one of them. We can unite. I'm getting better, though. I'm getting better at this thing. This with the clock. I'm getting better on this faithful journey. I'm getting better riding along on the stream of God's time. I'm getting better at not being frozen because something is coming up in 17 minutes from now, right? I have an appointment with somebody walking in. And therefore, I have zero time to accomplish anything because in 17 minutes, I'm going to be called to do something. Work or otherwise, right? In 17 minutes, it's practically here. That's how I feel. Maybe that's my grandma. Now, I've had some people near and far help me along the way of helping to understand time. The one story I want to tell you is about island time, but not the island time that you're thinking of, because I know you're thinking of island time. I'm thinking about Kodiak Island time. This is the northern island. This is in Alaska. Right before I became a pastor here, we visited good friends who lived on Kodiak Island for 2 weeks. The longest vacation I've ever taken. It was awesome. And we went there, and they live on a different kind of time than we do. But it's meaningful, let me tell you. Because one time we were going to go meet some friends of our friends somewhere, and it was one of those, we had 17 minutes, which to me, you get in a car and you drive somewhere, that's the allotted amount of time, right? We might be a little bit early even. Hey, we're going to be 5 or 6 minutes before we're supposed to be. Matt, our friend, gets a call as we're about ready to leave. Hey, can you come help me do this thing? Actually, it's very Kodiak. It was helping with this long fishing line thing this guy had stretched it out across his front yard. Hey, can you come help me? And I think, well, no, we got to be somewhere in 17 minutes. How can we go help anybody right now? Because that'll take at least, what, 12 minutes to get there? No. And I was like, sure, we'll come help. Come help. So we get there, and we help, and then we go to meet the people, and of course, we're late, right? Don't they know? That meant nothing to them, though, because everyone's on Kodiak time. They take the time to help when something needs done, and they do it. And so what if you're a few minutes late? So what? Much more recently than that was 5 years ago now, I've discovered something else that helps. It's called mindfulness meditation. Now trust me, I know some of you are going to scoff at this. And that's okay. You can scoff away, because guess what? That used to be me. So we're speaking the same language. Because what a waste of time, right? To meditate? So to that, I would politely argue that 15 minutes of meditation, mindfulness meditation, is probably much less wasteful than what? 15 minutes on Facebook? Or 15 minutes staring mindlessly at a screen? Or 15 minutes worrying about the thing that's going to happen in 15 minutes from now? Mindfulness meditation is intentional time. Mindfulness meditation is not about finding Zen, so get that out of your mind when it comes to meditation. It's not about finding, lifting up to this different state like Luke Skywalker sitting on the rock. It is about stopping and intentionally and with discipline just taking note of what is true in this moment, right now. You do that moment by moment, breath by breath. Moments of this has helped me tune into my body, do a lot of body sensory work. Doing this has helped me listen for and hear things in my very present surroundings that I would totally otherwise miss. Doing this has helped me listen for and hear the small, still voice of God as it calls out to me. Mindfulness meditation is one avenue of hopefulness and peace. And it just takes a little practice, and you get good at it. And I want you to know I'd be more than happy to practice this together with any of you. Just let me know. Mindfulness meditation reminds me in the moment to enjoy the stream that we're riding on of God's time. Just a little bit more. So your challenge this week in Lent might be to find out more about this experiment you can do with being prayerfully mindful in the moment. Your challenge might be to continue to take inventory of your autopilot moments. You're not even thinking. Just simply stop and sense yourself riding along in the stream. And brothers and sisters, the stream flows on, all in God's time.